YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today, going through every single NFL team, and I'm giving you the biggest breakout player for the 2021 season. It's a video we do right before the season every single year, so I'm excited to break it down. You guys can play along in the comments. Give me your thoughts. You're already doing so on our Twitter. Give me your biggest breakout players of the year. Cannot wait for the NFL season. We'll have weekly picks, score predictions, power rankings, a lot more. We got you covered. You guys are involved in a Pick'ems league and deciding the fan vote for Pick'ems through our Twitter this year, so make sure you follow us there. Link down below. All kinds of stuff going on there as well. And yeah, here's our Twitter, giving you updates on what's to come for videos, keeping you guys involved on your opinions on things, and constant NFL updates. We're gonna have some roster cuts and signings coming up, so we'll have you covered fully on all that news. Make sure you check it out. Link down below, and like and subscribe to the channel while you're at it. Breakout players. Start with the Patriots. Went with Damien Harris, the running back of the Patriots. Patriots got quite a few you can go with here. A couple receivers, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar started getting going. He kind of broke out last year with the Raiders. Kyle Duggar, is he going to get that opportunity at the safety position? I think he'll kind of be rotating with a few guys there. So I went Damien Harris. Could have solidified himself, locked himself into that RB1 situation, and they run the ball. They run the crap out of the ball there in New England. So I think he'll really get going this year. I guess the problem with this is, Sony Michel, James White, Ramondre Stevenson, love that pick. So do they split? They kind of been going away from Sony Michel, even though I think he can run still, obviously. They kind of been going away from him. Maybe James White could still ball, maybe not as good as he was a few years ago, and he's kind of that rotation guy. And they kind of ease guys in like a Stevenson, so that kind of points towards Harris being the guy. And again, he got going late last year before that injury, so I think he really gets going, and now he's the full-time guy here for this season. Next, the Bills. I'm going to go with Ed Oliver on the interior defensive line spot there, their defensive tackle. And a little underwhelming so far, but that's really not a problem to me. I talk about it all the time that when he was at Houston, they kind of used him out of position. They were using him at nose tackle a bit, and he's just not a nose tackle. So we just see that he's a freak. We see that he has the traits, the talent, coming into the NFL. And it was a guy that it was okay if he didn't start off hot right away because he was an upside guy. Get him learning the position and then going from Houston to the NFL playing in Buffalo. It was going to take a little bit of time. That was obvious. So now could be the year where he really gets going. So I'm looking forward to that. Ed Oliver on the Buffalo Bills defensive line there. The Jets got a number of guys you can go with. I have to go Quinnen Williams because I've been hyping him up this year. I think he's about to go crazy in this Robert Saleh's defense here. I think they're going to move him around a bit. They're going to play him at almost like a defensive end they can do at times, but obviously he's going to be on the inside in the trenches most of the time. But he can play nose, D tackle. He can move around all over the place. He's going to get a lot of pass rush productivity. He's going to stop the run. He's just going to go crazy in this defense, in my opinion. Could go with Carl Lawson, who they signed from the Bengals, who is a guy that has the traits, to be a very good pass rusher, just hasn't had that production yet. Got some good pressure, made some good plays, but hasn't had that full production. You throw him in this defense with players like Quinnen Williams, he can go off. Jared Davis is a guy to look out for as well if he gets the opportunity, but and there's some receivers that really can take off there for the Jets. But I got to go Quinnen Williams because this is kind of one of the bigger ones of this entire video. This guy is going to go, he's going to show why he was a top pick and why he was even number one on people's boards. I think he's built for this defense, so I cannot wait to watch him this year. The Dolphins, I got to go with Tua Tagovailoa here. There's a lot of people doubting him for sure. I've heard good things from practice. He's kind of getting that deep ball going again. Remember, that was kind of his game at Alabama, and you just look at his play last year with the Dolphins, like, where'd that go? Where did that go? A lot of check downs, a lot of struggle, not too accurate. And was that, the play calls? Were they trying to be too safe? Is he in his own head after the injury? Is it just rookie, trying to adjust? It could be anything there. But I think, they built around him for that kind of that Tua deep ball, that Tua ball, his style of play. So I think he really gets going. He'll still have some young mistakes, still a prospect, didn't play full-time last year, not even close. So he'll still have some mistakes, but I think he'll break out. I think we'll see more of the actual Tua that we've expected here. Definitely has the pieces now. I guess the offensive line's the only question there, but he definitely has the pieces, so we'll see what he can make of it. Washington got to go Chase Young. I mean, you can go with the player opposite of him in Montez Sweat, but you got to go Chase Young. Last year, very good rookie season, dominated, stopping the run right off the bat, was pretty solid getting after the quarterback, but in terms of his sack numbers, maybe his production, maybe a little underwhelming to some, the people that are kind of stat watchers, but I think he really goes crazy this year. That kind of sets him up for a big-time breakout year here. So I think he goes, I think he plays, he played well last year. I think he plays just as good or probably better, but then in terms of the production department, I think he, really, he's really going to produce is really what I'm trying to say. So pretty obvious one. Like Quinnen Williams, one of the bigger ones on this list. For the Giants, I'm going to go Dexter Lawrence. I know a lot of people hoping, maybe banking on Daniel Jones kind of breaking out because they have the pieces. They have the receivers now. So he is kind of in that prime spot to take that next step. Can he take that next step? You can even look at offensive linemen here. Maybe like Andrew Thomas. Could he step up this year and be a breakout guy? I'm going to go Dexter Lawrence. I was extremely, extremely high on Dexter Lawrence. A lot of people were, but out of Clemson there a couple years ago. It's a guy that can play nose, and they had him lined up at defensive tackle as well. They were moving, they were mixing it around with him and Dalvin Tomlinson. So that's good that he's kind of he's pretty versatile, I suppose. So I think a bigger role this year. And he's a guy that's polished stopping a run even before he took a snap in the NFL. So if he can kind of get going in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback, a monster, an absolute game changer. So I'd watch out for him this year in that big-time Giants defensive line, so I'm really excited about him. Cowboys, another obvious one to go, CeeDee Lamb. We knew he was going to be good. He was already solid last year. He probably wouldn't be eligible for this category if Dak didn't get hurt because he probably would have kind of already broke out in his rookie season. And I guess you could debate that he did because he already showed us what he can do. But I think he really goes crazy this year. I think we're going to be, after this year, as long as his quarterback's healthy, we're going to be talking about him, maybe in the top 10 receivers here going forward, maybe even better. So I think he'll be that good, have that good of a breakout season, take that big of a step this year. He's a do-it-all receiver. He isn't really lacking anything. I can't find something that he's really lacking. I think maybe people want to see him go against press outside a little more. Doesn't mean he's lacking that ability to do that. So I'm excited about CeeDee Lamb as well. I'm excited about all these guys. I keep saying it. Eagles, I'm going to go with Josh Sweat. Was a big fan of him out of Florida State. Had a first-round grade on him. The reason he didn't go anywhere near there is because he had injury concern, and he kind of had that concern early in his career, and we still are early in his career. But he got going last year. He stayed healthy, really got going, showed those flashes, why, myself and other people thought he was a first-round player. This year they add some more pieces. They had Ryan Kerrigan. Kerrigan actually could start opposite of Graham, but I actually could see Sweat, even if he could start, even if he doesn't start, I can actually see him getting as much reps as anybody, snaps that is, maybe the most, I think he's a key piece. He's flashy, gets to the quarterback, so I think he can take that next step this year and show why he should have been drafted earlier. Ravens, I'm going to go Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen, to me, not to everybody, but to me was a little bit of a raw prospect because that last year LSU, people view him as was a phenomenal player, and he was, but it was mainly in those big games down the stretch. Earlier in that year, he looked raw. He didn't actually look that great that early in the season on tape. I remember he came into LSU as a running back, so he was just getting familiar with the linebacker position. So I thought he was ahead of schedule last year. I think that's a great thing, obviously. I thought he's ahead of his schedule. And he's still learning his role in that Raven, in the inside, a lot of blitzing. You got to be a playmaker, and he kind of was, again, ahead of schedule. So now that he's learned his role, that specific role in that Don Martindale scheme there, I think he gets going. I think we're going to see him with a lot of production, almost like, and it's just a coincidence that he came from LSU, but like a Devin White kind of gearing towards that with that. He's lighting up the production sheet all over the place, blitzing, getting after the quarterback, stopping runs in the backfield, getting his hands on the ball, on the back end as well. I don't think he's as good as Devin White. Probably won't be as good as Devin White really ever, but I think similarities there in terms of production. So definitely got to look out for the Ravens. Browns, I'm going to go Jordan Elliott. Got to dig a little deeper for the Browns here. Not a bunch of, yes, those guys are breakout candidates there, not like obvious ones there. the Browns, very good roster, very good team. They could definitely be a contender. I think they're a little thin on the interior spot of the defensive line. Somebody's going to have to step up. Malik Jackson's going to have to stay healthy. Somebody's going to have to step up. I think it's pretty wide open. And for a second-year guy from Missouri, Jordan Elliott, who I liked his tape a lot at Missouri as well, I think he's got a great opportunity here to step up. He probably won't be a starter week 1. Maybe he can be. But I think he could take over as potentially one or maybe that best guy in the interior. Thing with him at Missouri, he was like so close to being more of a production guy, but really wasn't. He made the right plays. He just wasn't standing out for those stat watchers. He was just very close to breaking free, and I think with the better talent around him, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, I think he really gets going here. So it's definitely a guy to look out for here for this year for maybe a surprising breakout to some. Steelers, I'll go Alex Highsmith. Last year looked pretty solid coming in. When Bud Dupree got hurt, he wasn't obviously on Bud Dupree's level, but he was a rookie and a kind of a sleeper rookie at the same time. So this year they bring in Melvin Ingram, who's a fantastic pass rush you can do different things with. They may start Ingram because how talented he is, but Ingram also is so versatile that you can use TJ Watt, Highsmith, and Ingram at the same time. And Highsmith already, the one preseason game we saw this year, he already showed out, early in that game was very impressive. You can't have a lot of takeaways from preseason, but it's a positive thing. It's definitely a good sign. So watch out for Alex Highsmith here. We'll see how big of a role he has for the Steelers, even though they have Watt and Ingram. We will see. Bengals, thought I might go Joe Burrow. I'm actually going to go Jermaine Pratt here, linebacker for the Bengals. It definitely could be Burrow. That could be the easy choice. He's trying to figure things out here in camp so far, recovering from that knee injury and recovering from taking so many shots. The offensive line struggling. But Pratt got a bigger role last year for the Bengals. And I think he'll hold on to that role. And now I think he, kind of could start to reach his upside and grow a little bit. I mentioned throughout the offseason, I believe, my opinion, we'll see if I'm right or wrong here, just kind of a feeling, I think the Bengals will be a high blitz team. I think they're going to blitz a lot. And they already blitzed a bit last year, but I think the way they built this defense, where their strengths are, I think they're going to blitz. And Pratt, I liked a lot of NC State. He was kind of a do-it-all guy. He was a blitz guy, crazy good at blitz, but he was good dropping in coverage as a former safety. So I think this is a time where he gets going. I think he'll get some production in every category for a linebacker, but I'd watch for him in terms of the blitz game, which could be big for the Bengals defense, who could be surprisingly solid. I've heard they looked really good, along with Pratt and the obvious guys, Jesse Bates. I think I've heard these guys have looked really good in camp so far, so it's definitely an interesting player, a young player who that could step up, be better than expected. Bears, I'm going to go with Darnell Mooney. He came in there last year. I loved that pick at the time too. It was definitely a sleeper, and he came in there and really got going. Second half of the season really got going. Was getting separation than more than what people would realize, because they had some quarterback struggles. So this is a guy that just fits today's NFL. A speed receiver that's quick, has great footwork, and just gets the separation, gets open. So I think he's ready to take off. I think it also helps that this is going to be a run-first team. They are going to run the crap out of the ball like they did the second half of the year last year. The last 6 or so games, they ran the ball, play, set up the play action pass. They're going to continue on with that. They loaded up their running back unit, so they're going to pound the football, and then Allen Robinson has a lot of focus, which opened things up for Mooney. Teams will game plan for the run. Teams will game plan for Allen Robinson. It'll open things up for Mooney, who I think is clear-cut their second receiver. So that's a good sign as well. Lions are going to go DeAndre Swift. Something I kind of had a gut feeling on. Again, we'll wait and see if it happens. But I think they're going to try to use him like an Alvin Kamara type. With he's not going to be as good as Alvin Kamara. He's got a bright future. Kamara wasn't supposed to be. I'm not surprised how good Kamara is, but Kamara is better than what most expected him to be at this point. So Swift can do the same thing. And Swift was kind of a bigger name than Kamara. For some, so I guess he could down the line he could be that good, so we can't be too surprised. But I think they use him in that way where he's kind of like a receiving back, running back, line him up in the slot because they have Jamal Williams as well. Swift has a lot of upside as a receiving back. He's better than people think. He started his career off a little rough. He had that drop to win the game against the Bears. Can't define him from that. That doesn't define him, not even close. So I think they're going to really get him going in that category. This is a team that's going to run the ball. They got Swift, Jamal Williams, and they're going to dump it off underneath, with guys like Swift, Williams, TJ Hawkinson, St. Brown could be good in that category. So I think that's that style offense they're going to go with. They're going to go quick. Swift will be heavily involved in that. So I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see if that's the truth. Will they roll with them like that? Vikings, I'm going to go Irv Smith Jr., their tight end. Kyle Rudolph, it was a big-time tight end for that franchise for a long time. He's out. Irv Smith is in. He's getting bigger, faster, stronger, so they're going to use him a ton, especially in the red zone, so this could be a touchdown machine to look out for. But he's good in the open field, too. He's really good after the catch, so it's definitely a bigger role, and now's the time for him to step up. He was dominant at Alabama, so we were still kind of waiting on that. Where's that guy? Now could be the time that he has that role. So I'm gonna go Irv Smith there. And they were starting to pass the ball a little more. The Vikings, that is, known as a run first team, they still are, but they were starting to pass the ball a little more at the end of last year. So we'll see if they keep rolling with that. Packers, I'm gonna go Darnell Savage. You could probably argue maybe he's already broken out a little bit. I'd argue against that. He's been good. I think he's been another one of those guys that's been ahead of schedule. This was a raw prospect. The Packers drafted him off pure potential. He had the athleticism, the speed to hit those angles, to make that play, passing game, run game. He had that ability to get his hands in the ball, but there was a lot of things to work with. Some tackling issues. He's good at hitting those angles because of his speed, but taking those appropriate angles. There was a lot of mistakes on tape that were like, is this guy a first-round prospect? But you're taking him purely off upside because he has those traits to be a big-time playmaking free safety, and the Packers hit on that. He's ahead of schedule. He already cleaned up those mistakes. He's already getting his hands on the ball, making those big-time plays. So this is a guy that's about to just bust loose at any time here. I think he's a candidate to lead the league in interceptions. It could be this year, could be next year, could be 5 years from now. He's one of those guys. So I think he really gets going this year for that secondary. It's a really good secondary for the Packers. Colts, I'm going to go Bobby Okereke here. Anthony Walker got a ton of snaps last year, just under Darius Leonard, and Okereke actually had a pretty good amount of snaps as well, but under Anthony Walker. Anthony Walker, they let him go to the Browns, doesn't get paid much at all. The Colts felt comfortable with the next guy stepping up. And he actually looked flashier, I thought, than Walker Jr. last year. So they felt real comfortable with him stepping up, taking on that huge role. He has nobody to kind of get in there and take some of his snaps away. It's really just Darius Leonard and Bobby Okereke. So, and this was a good guy in college, kind of a polished guy as well, and he's already looking solid. So bigger role this year with a guy who's already been playing pretty well. So it's a guy that can make a bigger name for himself this year for sure, with his play in that role this year. Titans, a pretty obvious one. Go Jeffrey Simmons. I mean, this was a top-tier prospect a couple years ago. The reason he dropped a little bit because there was injury concern. He still goes in the first round because he's that talented, and he's already been playing pretty damn good. But I think this year is where we see why he was kind of labeled a guy that should have went earlier, was a top-tier prospect. Maybe like a Quinnen Williams, what I think he'll do. This guy is a beast on the inside, whether it's stopping a run. He's already a polished run stopper, but he's adding kind of that pass rush to his game, getting pressure on the quarterback. So I think this guy's about to go off this year. Could go with a guy like Anthony Ferkser, bigger role this year. They like him a lot. Their tight end, Amani Hooker, they like him. He's going to step up in the strong safety position for Kenny Vaccaro. So you could there's a number of guys you can go with Tennessee Titans as well. But I'm going to go with Simmons there. I think it's the obvious choice. The Jags. Thought about Laviska Shenault here. I like the idea of him with Trevor Lawrence. They got a number of options, though. I'm going to go with Josh Allen. Josh Allen looked the part his rookie year. That wasn't surprising. He had a lot of production. Okay, that's that freak prospect, pass rusher prospect. Very good season. Very underwhelming last year. Very underwhelming for sure. Not worried at all. This guy is a damn good pass rusher. I think the newer type of defense, I think, is going to fit Josh Allen's traits, his abilities. So I think he gets going this year. They added a little more around him too. There was zero interior pressure before, so that makes it harder on the edge rush group. So I think a lot of things kind of factor in here. He's getting better. He's already a phenomenal talent. Just got to show it a little more. And they add to the group there, around him, inside of him in the trenches. And I think the staff, we'll see what they do. It's going to be like a multiple defense, which I'm, got some questions on. But I think it'll fit him more. I think they'll have him standing up a little more. So I think that's fantastic. I think we'll see some good production from Josh Allen. Texans, I'm going to go Charles OMENIHU, who's been more of an inside player for the Texans based on their pass scheme. Change of scheme here. I think they're going to move around a bit, which is fantastic, but I think he's going to be more of a pass rusher, in this scheme. See more of the defensive end reps in what's going to be their new 4-3, where they were running a 3-4, which he was playing 3-4-M before. So I think we're going to see some more pass rush production, which gets him that upside, which gets him that breakout title here. He had quite a bit of it at Texas. He was pretty good in that category, so I think he's got it in him here. So Ross Blacklock's another guy that I'm considering here as well, because we didn't see much of him last year. It just depends on if they give him this shot, they get him going. So a couple guys to look out for there for the Texans. Saints, I'm going to go Marquez Callaway. I've been hyping him up a little bit. Could be definitely a sleeper receiver here that could step up. Really early college career looked fantastic, and it kind of declined a little bit, but not because of his talent, because of quarterback play. So we can see him with more of a pass offense here downfield. Winston, hopefully, it could boost it a bit. So I think, Michael Thomas out. So I think Callaway is a guy that definitely can get going. I actually thought about putting Jameis Winston up here, because has he really broken out yet? He hasn't really lived up to that first overall pick yet, even though he's proven that he's got talent, arm talent, can air the ball out, can get that production. So I was kind of thinking about Jameis Winston, because could he be better than where he was? Could he look like that first overall pick? I think it's a possibility here with the Saints offense. But I want Callaway here, who's more of an actual breakout, eligible for a breakout candidate. The Bucks really don't have a big one. They got a bunch of polished veterans across the board. Antoine Winfield kind of already broke out for me last year. I don't think we could see any more from Antoine Winfield that's going to be like, yes, that guy just broke out. Like he's his versatile safety, kind of does it all. He's a playmaker, but also could be in the back. I don't know. We can see him get more production. I just don't really feel like that was a breakout guy. You could definitely debate that. I go Tyler Johnson, though. I mean, this guy was thought of as a first-round pick talent at one point, and he kind of slipped through, mainly because people thought he was kind of a one-trick pony, which I kind of disagree with, but he ran a lot of slants, but I thought he was a lot more than that, and usually those guys drop just because of that, not because they're talent. It's just a matter of will he get the opportunity, though, because they got a long list of other receivers there, but I think he's extremely talented. I think he could be a big factor for that team. So we'll see. Panthers, going to go Derrick Brown here. People would say Brian Burns. To me, Brian Burns broke out last year. He was way better than what people give him credit for. He broke out last year. He can break out even further. I think he'll have a lot more production this year, which people love to see. I think he'll probably play as good as he did last year, but it'll probably be more production, which will appeal to more people. But to me, he already broke out, so he wasn't eligible for me here, but I'm expecting big things from Brian Burns. But Derrick Brown was a sure thing draft pick, and this guy's a stud. Can play him at nose, can play him at D-tackle. He's going to stop the run. He's another one of those guys going to stop the run. He can get some pressure on the quarterback. Can he elevate that more? I think he's going to get going. So this guy was a top pick for a reason, so I think it was an easy choice here for the Panthers. Falcons, I'm going to go A.J. Terrell, first-round pick from Clemson. Another one of those guys is any corner is kind of a raw prospect. It takes time for them to get going. But I thought he got going later last year. The Falcons' defense is playing better. I thought A.J. Terrell was the main guy playing, a lot better. So I actually love what I saw. I thought he was ahead of schedule. Corners are so up and down earlier in the career. You can't really, predict where they'll be. It's tough. But I definitely think he's heading in the right direction. I definitely think he could be a breakout guy out there and just continue to get better there for this season and continue on where he was at the end of last year. Broncos, I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy. Could go Drew Lock. Hearing good things from camp. It sounds like he's the guy, but will they be easy to put Bridgewater in? Will they start Bridgewater week 1? I don't think so, but they could. So it's pretty tough. I go Jerry Jeudy though, because he was a little disappointing last year, mainly because the drops. But he's coming in. I'm not surprised with it's not really a lack of production. I thought he had pretty good production, but it didn't surprise me that he wasn't as big of a name in year one as Justin Jefferson, guys like that. Doesn't surprise me just based on their types of game. JEUDY, why he was so good, why he was such a valuable prospect, it's because his footwork was ridiculous. Route running is pretty damn good. That home run ability, takeover, playmaking ability. But how will he be against NFL zone coverage? The footwork really doesn't, that twitchiness really doesn't take over against zone coverage because you're not really going to throw a guy off you with that. So he had to he was going against a lot of man at college. So it was going to take a little bit of time to get used to that zone coverage, to play against, Justin Jefferson thrived already against zone coverage while he was able to take off right away. More of his route running. He's got great footwork. He would say feet work. Has more of the route running where Jerry Jeudy has more of the footwork, but they're both great in both categories. But Jeudy, as he gets going against and how to beat that zone coverage and read the zone coverage, he is going to be that guy, that talent that we saw at Alabama. So I think he gets going now, another year, another off season here. He gets going in that category, which would be key for him. The Raiders, back-to-back, coincidence there, back-to-back second year Alabama receivers. Yeah, Henry Ruggs, he was a little underwhelming last year. I thought he'd be a little better. There was times where it was just mistakes, like, he had, a couple, he had one in the end zone, actually. I think it was towards the later part of the year where it was just an easy touchdown, and he some bad footwork to keep himself in. Just moments like that along the sideline and just being able to read coverages too. So he's kind of in that category too. He'll learn how to read coverages, zone coverage, and that'll help his game. At the moment, I kind of felt like a one-trick pony, just one lane speed, and go. He's got that home run ability for sure. I think it's a matter of the Raiders getting him more involved too. Nelson Aguilar gone, so that definitely could help. They do have John Brown, who's another similar type receiver, so I think Ruggs gets going more, gets more opportunities. Hopefully he can clean up those mistakes and kind of be more than just that one gear, one lane and go type guy. I think he has the capabilities of being that. So hopefully he can take that next step here. Chargers, I love this one. Kenneth Murray is a kind of a prime example of a breakout player. The Chargers traded back into the first round a year ago to get him. They had to have him. And it's funny, it's almost like they predicted the future with that because he's such a perfect fit now with this Brandon Staley defense. Such a perfect fit, in my opinion. Why I loved him out of Oklahoma, he's an inside linebacker that did it all, but there was times where they would put him off the edge or blitz him, and he was so good in that category. You kind of got to use him in multiple different ways. It's kind of today's type of linebacker. You got to use him in, you can't keep him in one spot. Other than they kept him in one spot last year, and I didn't really like that. They had him kind of with strict roles, like he had to drop in coverage. That's where he could, in an area where he definitely can improve. But they had him kind of stuck in that role too much. I think he's gonna start on the inside 3-4 defense for Brandon Staley. He's gonna play inside linebacker. They're gonna use him in different ways. They're gonna blitz him, but they will put him off the edge as well. I'm confident with that. They're gonna use him in different ways. They're gonna get him after the quarterback. He's gonna make plays in the backfield like crazy. He's a rangy guy too, so I'm expecting big things here going forward from Kenneth Murray. I like him as a breakout guy for sure. Easy one, big time one here. Chiefs going Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, right off the gate, looked like one of the better running backs in football last year. Early on, they got him going. You see his talents. Then they kind of went back to passing a little more, and it was understandable. And the run blocking it was pretty bad. I think the offensive line started to wear out, some injuries. So the run blocking was pretty bad, so they couldn't get him going as much. It really felt like, and I feel pretty good about this, that they were kind of hiding him a little bit in terms of a pass catcher as a receiver because he was so damn good at it at LSU. Out of the backfield, even lining up as a slot guy, so damn good at it. One of the best prospects we've seen in that category in a long time. And you wouldn't know it based on his play last year. I think they're keeping that in the back pocket. I think we're going to see a lot of that this year, but they made it a point. We're going to get these run blockers. We're going to get those power physical blockers, those man blockers in Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, because they want to run the ball. They want to pound it down your throat to make things easier. Not that they need to, but it's going to make it that much more challenging for defenses, but to make things better for the passing game as well. So I think he's going to look like that, maybe even better, that early year Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year, who looked like one of the better backs in football. 49ers, easy one. Brandon Ayuk took off later last year. The Shanahan raved about him when they drafted him. They had to have him. We don't know what their board looked like, but I'm pretty damn sure Ayuk was probably like their second best receiver in that, on their board in that class. Maybe at the top, because they saw that fit. They loved him a lot, loved his upside. So we're seeing that, how important we're going to see that, how important he is to that Shanahan offense and why they had to have him. And we saw it kind of a little bit later last year, but now I think they're a little thinner at the, Kendrick Bourne out, a little thinner at the receiver position. They're also, there's some injury concern. Deebo Samuel's a phenomenal talent. Do they limit him a little more so he doesn't get hurt right off the bat? And they're just big plans for Ayuk. More of that true outside receiver for them. Just big-time plans for him. He's going to get that opportunity. He's going to get the production. So that's an easy choice for me. Definitely one of the bigger ones on this list, I think. Cardinals, easy one here is Isaiah Simmons. Going, top-tier prospect for a reason because he's just so talented. And then, the Cardinals take him high, and they're not even starting him right off the bat. And it is interesting because you look at what he was known for mainly at Clemson was his versatility and how good he was at those different positions. What were those positions? Well, his main position was an outside linebacker position in more of a 4-3, but he also played in the slot. He actually played outside corner at times too, and he also played kind of a safety role, a strong safety role at times, and he was lights out in all those categories. Known as a linebacker, but never played inside linebacker. The Cardinals bring him into their 3-4 defense, and they need him to play inside linebacker there. And he's actually, the amount of positions he's played, he never played inside linebacker, so that's a little tough, and we didn't see him on the field at all early in the year. Rarely we did. And then we got to that primetime Seattle Seahawks game, one of the best games of the year, and down the stretch he got more of an opportunity, and he made a huge play in that game pretty much to win it, and I felt like he was all over the field at that point too, and that's where it clicked. They got him going more. He's a guy, he didn't know the inside linebacker position. This guy's just a ball player. He's just a ball player. You just put him in there, he's going to make plays. So he really got going after that game, second half of the year. So now I think he gets going even more. I want them to move him around a bit, though. It's another guy you can't stick in one spot. He'd probably look a little better right now if he was on a 4-3 defense. But at the end of the day, he's a ball player, so I think he's going to continue to break out here. Seattle Seahawks, AHKELLO WITHERSPOON here. This is a guy I was actually kind of high on out of Colorado as a corner. Long corner, good, good covering the outside, has that length to be able to go make a play, attack the ball before the receiver gets there. That's what I saw on tape. He kind of had hot and cold with the 49ers so far. Some good moments that we saw that we thought maybe he could, based on the Colorado tape. And then some moments where he really struggled to get beat, or somebody would be just out physical him at times. But again, corners take a long time to develop. It's just common. It's just what it is. And they're kind of up and down. It's nothing surprising there unless it's the top tier ones, So could he get going? Could he hit that stride here? And now he's with the Seattle Seahawks, which it's a tough task because he's going to be I think he's a sure thing as the corner one, which, maybe you want, you wish you had Shaq Griffin for corner one to be your unit be a little better. But he's that corner one. He's got to carry the group. Maybe he's got a tougher task because he's covering the number ones. And they don't have the best pass rush. I think it's going to be a unique defense, though. But I think he could really get going with these responsibilities. It could help him get going. So I think he has it in him. He's got to stay a lot more consistent, and he's the guy in Seattle at that cornerback position. So I do like him for this category. And then last, the Rams. Love this one. If you were with us for the draft coverage, our draft coverage of 2020, might be the biggest Terrell Lewis guy. There's probably Bama guys out there, but I'm probably the biggest Terrell Lewis guy on the planet. This guy was a top-tier prospect for me, was one of my guys in the draft. Extremely, extremely talented pass rusher. He really can, down the line, he can be one of the best in football as a 3-4 pass rusher, edge rusher. I think he's that talented. I think he has the traits, he has the moves, he has the athleticism. Here is the big problem. He does have major injury concern. He's had some major injuries throughout his career. And last year, I think they were more a little careful with him. He's had some injuries pop up, but I think they were just kind of being careful with him because they didn't really feel like we got to get this guy in there right now. Made sense. Now, I think is the time opposite of Leonard Floyd. They need somebody to step up. It is Terrell Lewis time here. It's just there is no doubt in my mind about his talent. It's not a question of is he going to be talented enough or not. That is not the question. And some people probably disagree because he's a young guy, didn't prove himself yet. The question is he healthy or not? If he's healthy, this guy's going to be talented. If he's not healthy, we're not going to see him on the field, and it's unfortunate. It's still worth the pick there where they took him in the second round a year ago. But I'm excited about this guy. I'm hoping he stays healthy. I'm staying confident because I'm a big fan of Terrell Lewis's game. You can go to a number of guys probably. Darius Williams kind of broke out last year. Terrell Burgess, I like that pick. He's kind of taken over for Troy Hill in my opinion. They can play him at safety though. Taylor Rapp, I was a big Taylor Rapp. The Rams got quite a few guys I was a big fan of. Taylor Rapp was a huge fan of his game at Washington. Kind of gave me, I guess say poor man's because it would be too high praise, but Harrison Smith vibes a little bit. And now that they lost John Johnson and versatility of Taylor Rapp, and he's coming back healthy now, I think he's a big one here. I think it's an obvious one, so I could go him. There's quite a few. The Rams are a good one for this category because they have quite a few options. I'm just hoping my guy Terrell Lewis takes off. I know my guy Taylor Rapp will for sure. So we'll see. I can't wait to see. It's one of my favorite videos to do every year because I can't wait to see which ones end up being the case. Which guys take off, break out. I'm really excited about these young players. We do a similar video that I'll do in the very near future. Secret weapons. Every team's secret weapons. We hit on a few last year. So I'm really excited about videos like that. Really excited about our in-season content. Join us for that. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss any of it. Follow our Twitter. Very important info on there. It's an absolute must-follow link down below. But that is going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.